Lloyd, thanks so much for joining us today on the Sporting Transition podcast. Really, really grateful for your time, and with the Six Nations on at the weekend, it's obviously pretty relevant as well to kind of talk about what we're going to talk about today. Just to get kicked off, we'd love for you just to introduce yourself a little bit, what you do right now, but also a little bit about your sporting background, and then we'll use that to kind of kick off the rest of the session.
Yeah, well, thank you first for the invite on, Mark, and for raising the conversation around sporting transitions. I think it's such an interesting time, and we obviously speak about the peaks of people's careers a lot, but we don't speak about that transition away from it. And you sort of see all the messages online if when somebody announced their retirement, like "good luck, anything you do, let me know," and then sort of actually, what are we actually doing to like help that transition and support that transition, and what do people actually mean as well when they are anything I can do for you, just let me know as well. Interesting what that means to different people as well. So no, thank you for having those conversations. But yeah, so take it back. I was professional rugby player, played at the Ospreys for. I come in at under 16s, went straight through went through the academy, and then come out at retired at 31. So very fortunate from that point of view. I think the only time I spent away from Ospreys was about 4 weeks down on loan. They're our nearest rivals, which must start my career. I never thought it'd ever happen. So, and then during that time, I was always looking at what was I going to do after rugby. Didn't really know what it looked like. I'll be honest with you, and I can say it about myself. I was in the bin juice team a lot. That meant that you'd probably weren't always going to get selected. Never knew if the next contract was going to come. So I always looked at things away from rugby out of interest, as well as the want to know what I want to do after rugby as well, and taking some of that stress away. So probably twofold in that as well. And then post rugby, played semi professional rugby in Wales for 2 years. But all the way through my career, I've been doing different things. I was actually the lead for mental health and wellbeing already for the Welsh Rugby Players Association, which I'm doing now full time. But I was doing that as a player, and then realised there was a huge want and a care from my point of view for athlete care, how we prepare for transitions, but also how we look after ourselves during our careers. So that was a huge interest of mine. So carried on doing that work with the Welsh Rugby Players Association, opened my own company called E10 Lloyd Ashley around well-being, just like an area of fascination for me, really. And then first job I left rugby, professional rugby. I went into work at Swansea University, looking after their scholarship program, so looking after all their dual career athletes. And yeah, that taught me so much. And now just come over the last 5 months, might not be that long yet, but about 5 months, come back to work full time for the Welsh Rugby Players Association. So I look after one of the regions as a personal development manager, but also lead up the mental health and wellbeing program as well for all the professional players in Wales.
Super. Fantastic intro, and obviously huge relevant to the topic we're talking about today. Just to backpedal a little bit, I mean, your career is 15 years long with one club. Is that kind of considered pretty unusual?
There'll probably be less people that do it than the majority, be fair to say. So very fortunate to have been in one club all that time. And I know that I think there's 6 or 7 players reached over 150 games for the Ospreys. So yeah, one of the fortunate ones to have got over one of the big landmarks there. So very fortunate, and with it being my home region as well, not just being a club that you've ended up in and lasted that long in, for it to be a home club, and now to be back there working on the other side of the white line as well. It's really nice from that point of view.
Yeah, that's interesting. And do you think that's kind of brought you more security and kind of confidence in yourself, knowing that you've been in that club for so long? Because I imagine being a rugby player, there's always that worry of what's next, where's next, do I need to relocate my family, etc., etc. But in a way, knowing that you've been in the club for 15 years, over time, did you feel more secure that this is me, and feeling less worried about what might be around the corner?
It's interesting because I think there's so many things that come into it. I do feel that being an ex-player, there's still some of the players who I played with over during my career. Not many left now, but still a couple still playing. And the younger players knowing that you had played for the club. I think you get a level of respect when you walk back through the door, in whatever role or capacity that is. I think you get a level of respect that others wouldn't get from that point of view, and you get a level of trust straight away. You don't have to earn the trust as much from that point of view, but because we work for, cause even though I'm based at Ospreys, I work for the Welsh Rugby Players Association, so I don't actually not actually employed by the Ospreys. But it's nice that you know what the club's about, you know how ambitious the club is, you know a lot of the coaching staff from that point of view, so you can have those conversations. So I do think there's a lot of benefits to being in the club before, but I also think there was a huge benefit from spending 2 years away at Swansea University as well and being away from this environment to understand what working relationships are like, to understand different things, to drag yourself out of the bubbles that you are in when you're just in professional sport as well. So I think that was a huge education for me. So coming away and coming back in, I feel like I come in a better, more rounded person to equip myself for the job as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I made a note earlier of when you were playing, you're also keeping an eye and out of interest seeing what was outside of rugby. But something really interesting that you said was it took the stress away from rugby. And I've actually heard this quite a few times from other athletes, not just in rugby, but other sports, where actually being involved with something other than rugby sometimes may be considered a bit of a distraction, but actually a really healthy one because it just gave them a kind of stress relief. So it's really interesting to hear you say it as well, because in what way did it help you to kind of de-stress?
I think in so many different ways. I think there was nice to realize how hard life is away from sports. So
Mm.
when you're in one job, when you're in one environment, and you see and you feel how hard certain things are, how physically tiring it is. So if you see you're not getting the wins that you feel like you deserve for all the hard work, and you might not selection might not be going your way. You might be injured at a certain point. So like there's loads of things that could go against you, and then all of a sudden it feels like, wow, this is such a hard profession to be in. And then all of a sudden you go outside, you see something else, and you go, oh, well, actually, the struggles are different, but there's still struggles there from that point of view. So I think it's really good from an eye opening point of view. To speak to people on a different level, I think is really important from that point of view, because let's be honest, if you're going to spend a day working with someone, they might be really interested in rugby, but the first half hour, they might focus all on your rugby and want to know everything. After that, they got to crack on their job. So, like, you're having conversations about things that are not just rugby. You could see what's going on for them. What's their journey been like up to the point they're at now? So, it's not only getting to know more about different professions. It's about getting to know people. And obviously, from a point of view of professional sport, a lot of people's big milestones are quite similar, and like their route there, and we don't always go into the intricacies of those bits in between those big milestones. So from your first academy contract to your senior debut to your age grade international caps to trying to make it as an international in Wales, like you see those big landmarks, but you don't actually always talk about the intricacies in between. So it's nice when you go away from there, because people ask you and they're really interested. Oh, what was the route like? What did you do? And then you start talking about some of those frustrations. All of a sudden, someone's going, "Oh yeah, I not in a professional sport point of view, but I had those frustrations because I went to do this, this, and this, and I didn't get this." And you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, this is really interesting to know." And then when everybody says to you how many transferable skills there are from professional sport, you start seeing it. You're like, oh, well,
Mm.
yeah, I could add value here, because this resilience that I've learned, or this dedication that I've learned, just goes straight into that. And then you're going,
Yeah.
oh, I get now what people are saying from transferable skills. But if we talk about leadership, for instance, everyone goes, oh, it's such a transferable skill from sport. And from a Norse point of view, from a rugby point of view, like somebody goes, oh, they call the line out. They've got loads of skills in leading from that point of view. And then all of a sudden you say to somebody, oh, what transferable skills have you got? And they're like, none. I'm like, well, no, you have got a lot actually, because from
Yeah.
your communication under pressure, from decision making, just in that small process, but there, and then this is how we could transfer it from that point of view. But letting people actually see that and work that out for themselves, and then they get that enlightenment where they go, oh yeah, I get that now, rather than just telling them. That was huge from me, because you do have confidence of going out, and it's also nice to be
Mm.
treated in Wales, rugby's huge, which is amazing. But also, you get a chance if you're going to do some work experience or different education. You get a chance to be treated like by your name. I was out there as Lloyd Ashley. I'm not a professional rugby
Mm.
player. Like there's places you go otherwise, and everyone's like so happy to see you. And you can get like ego wise, you get it's a nice fluff up for your ego. Oh yeah, they landed to see me, but. No, they're landed to see a professional rugby player. They're not landed to see you, but it's hard to distinguish
Mm.
between those things when you're the one in that, and
Yeah.
it's a harsh reality. You're forgotten about very very quick. So, like trying to not say to players like make the most of it now. You're only important for a couple of months. No, but trying to say to people, well, actually, within 6 months of you retiring, you're just going to be treated as somebody who used to do that sport. But we need
Yeah.
to prep you for that, and you need to prepare yourself for that. And this is how we want to support you by putting these different things in place. These are the conversations I'd like us to have. Is there any way you'd like to go? So, yeah,
Mm.
facilitating that is, I think, is a really important point as well.
And Lloyd, what was your superpower when you stepped away from rugby into the real world? What's the one thing that you feel you carried across into the real world from your rugby experiences?
Yeah, I think the biggest point for me, I was never the best in the rugby team. And I was comfortable with never being the best outside of that. I was striving, always working as hard as I possibly could be to be better, to be better, to be better. But like, it didn't bother me if I went into a conversation and I wasn't quite sure what was going on. I'd say, "Excuse me, like I don't understand
Mm.
it completely. Could you explain it a little bit to me so I can learn from that point of view?" I wasn't yeah, I wasn't bothered about having those conversations. I wasn't bothered around genuinely getting feedback. And if someone was like, "No, that's not good enough," I was like, "Okay, I'm happy with that. Like anything you can help me with, because I'm not quite sure why I've
Mm.
gone wrong there." So I think I was really comfortable with the fact of one, not being the smartest in the room, and two, with having harsh feedback because I was just used to it. It was just how rugby
Yeah.
was from that point of view. And like I do think it's a huge skill and superpower to have, and I do think
Mm.
there's that balance around. Like I don't want language to not be inclusive of people. I want people to feel like they're not just being chucked aside and no one cares, but also that there is times where it is difficult in the working environment where you haven't quite done what you're supposed to, or you haven't done it as well as somebody else was expecting it to. And to be able to take that criticism and feedback and to be able to work with it rather than just beat our chest and our chimp come out. This think is a really important skill to have as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've heard it quite a few times actually from other athletes as well, where their ability just to show a bit of vulnerability and show that they're not perfect, they're happy to be told what to keep improving on, and even sometimes lacking a bit of confidence, but being really open to that and knowing they lack confidence, but actually just being really open about those topics and
Yeah, and it's
conversations.
interesting. Like being confident in self doesn't mean you're confident in what you're doing as well. And I think that
Correct.
like that line of that vulnerability and everybody because and I think so for me it's a massively important topic speaking around mental health and vulnerability there. But vulnerability is in all walks of life, and vulnerability is honesty. Like, and
Mm.
we sometimes get like sort of change that language around it. But it's just being honest about actually where you are. Like I'm loving my job at the moment, but I'm not actually sure what I'm doing or what I'm supposed to be doing, or I've done this and I'm not sure if it's right. Would you just check for me? And I think that's really important just to be that person, and different environments allow it. So it's easy to say
Yeah.
from afar to players when they're transitioning away from the game, "Oh, do this," and then all of a sudden the first team meeting they say, "Oh, look, I haven't done this. 'Cause I wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing," and then all of a sudden they get ripped down. So like, putting somebody in a correct environment's a really important place to be able to be vulnerable as well.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It's kind of this fine line of self assurance and confidence. So you might be very self assured, but actually lacking a bit of confidence. But actually, that self assurance is quite important to have, I think, because confidence, I think, you can gain in other ways. Um, cool. So talk us through your own kind of sporting transition and talk us through the moment you started thinking about when you'll think about moving away from sport because sometimes it happens due to injury. So something really bad's happened, and that's just the end of the equation. There's nothing more to discuss. But for others, it's sometimes a bit more nuanced. So other things are happening. I mean, you've talked about doing things on the side that gave you more confidence, made you see the outside world a bit more. So it's really interested to know what led you to retire, because 31, obviously in rugby terms, is probably considered old-ish, but I'm sure you could have kept going if you wanted to. I'm sure there's older rugby players than 31. So what led you to really start thinking of something new when you retired?
Yeah, I think probably best to go back to that and come forward. During the under-20s World Cup, my first year in the 20s, so it would have been 13 years before that, roughly. I had an ACL injury, and come back and suffered an injury in Argentina. Didn't think it was too bad. Got strapped up, managed to play the rest of the game. Come home, knee had blew up on the plane, and I was a bit like, oh, okay, wonder what this is. Bit of a strange one. Turned up for a scan. I was walked into the scan. I wasn't limping or anything. I was quite confident from that point of view that it wasn't nothing too bad. First time I'd ever had any niggles, injuries, or definitely first time I'd ever had a scan and like you got a doctor waiting for you and stuff. And then so I had a scan, and then the next day I have a phone call back, and then the surgeon says to me, "Are you sitting down?" And I was like, "Oh no." I said, "I'm out and about, just walking." And I said, "Oh, why is that?" He said, "Oh, I got some bad news here." He said, "Oh, your ACL's gone, and just to let you know, you're on your way to arthritis already." And I was like, what? Like that's an interesting phone call. I was thinking that because I'm up and about, there was nothing too bad and wasn't that serious. Had my surgery, and then at that point, um, I was coming into rehab. Didn't really know what that was going to look like because I was just sort of in academy, and it wasn't didn't seem really serious to me first of all. And then they were like, right, we're going to put this in place for you for the next couple of months. I was like, wow, this is amazing. They're going to do this much for me just to get me back. This is class. Like, can't believe it. And I was like, right, I'm all in. Yeah, like you can have anything you want off me because I'm all into this. And then I sort of realized from that point, your rugby career is going to be very fickle. It could end at any point, and some of that's going to be in your control or not. And that doesn't mean that from that point I was like, right, I need a plan straight away. But it was like, I think I always had an eye on I've got to take opportunities away from the game because I don't know when it will end. So I went on a couple of different journeys from that point of view. I went to do a foundation degree in sports coaching, realized if I finished early from rugby, I didn't want to be around sport. Then I went to do my plumbing qualification. I'll go back to that story a little bit later. I realized how poor I was on the tools, and that wasn't for me. But it was a really good learning curve for 3 years. It taught me so much around life. After that, I done a ILM leadership and management qualification. I went around a couple of different businesses and managers and business managers at that point. And I was like, well, this is quite interesting. I didn't have a clue about the business side of things, but dealing with people and how different managers dealt with people, I thought it was really interesting. It taught me a lot around how to seek feedback from coaches, how to build relationships with coaches. And then after that, I went on probably a bit of that's probably where it really shaped my career after that, ILM. I was going to do my lecturing qualification so I could coach, so I could teach in colleges, post-compulsory education. And I had about 6 months before that course started, and somebody was helping me with career advice said to me, "Oh, what are you going to do for the next 6 months?" And I was like, "Oh, put my feet up and enjoy," because I got a busy 2 years coming. And she was like, "Oh, you love speaking to people. Why don't you go and do an introduction to counselling course?" And I was like, okay, I'll do that in this case. So went to do that and turned up to a course, and there was about 26 women there and me. Mostly, I would say as well, ladies aged 40 plus. So, no one walking the wrong pub and everyone stares at you like, "What are you doing? Yeah. What's this outsider doing in here?" It was one of those. Everyone stared at me as I come through the door, and like it's clear to see I got a big nose and big ears. So I probably had stitches in my face at the time as well. So definitely looked out of place. And about 6 weeks into the course, my wife said to me, she said, "Oh, you seem to be so happy when you come back from it." And I was like, I'm learning so much about, even though I love to speak to people, I haven't engaged people properly. I haven't held space for people. I haven't made it safe to have these conversations. So that really changed it, like how I approach things then from that point of view. And so I went on to do my lecturing qualification. and was doing other bits. Rugby career still going pretty well. I was like, I'd got over that 100 cap game, and still getting like lead into that 150. I always planned on, I needed to be ready to, not ready to retire as in somebody had a job ready for me, but I needed to try to have enough in the bank by the time I was 30, because I didn't know how much longer I was going to go over it. I mean, news are 18, you're already on your way to arthritis. I was like, if I get to 30, I've done really well, so try and be prepped as you can for that point. So I was still leading up to that point. And then in the last year of my contract, the head coach of the Ospreys at the time come over and said, Scarlett's are looking for a second row, but not sure if you want to go. And I was like this is a close rivalry, be fair to say. So probably like the most competitive rivalry in Wales. But I was a bit like, I've knocked on your door for the last 6 months every week, saying like what more can I do for a chance to play? And I wasn't playing much of the time. I can't turn this opportunity down to play. I need to play. But there's also a reality. If your head coach offers you that, you're like, my future's like virtually done. Yeah, I probably will play a couple more games when there's opportunities, but my career's probably done from that point of view. So I was like, do you say yes? Do you say no? And then it was a bit like, yeah. So a couple of decisions going there, but it went on there. I loved my time there, and from that point of view, come back to the Ospreys, managed to celebrate 150 games because I was about 2 off, I think, at the time. So I really wanted to get to that mark. So after that game, I remember I said to my wife, I was like, oh, look, I know the club doesn't have to tell me until something like February in my contract, whether they're going to sign my plus on my contract, but I'm going to go in early because I think they've made their decision anyway. So I went in, and in fairness, the club were really honest. They said, look, we don't think we're going to extend that 1 year on your contract. And I was like, happy days. Like it was really supportive and amicable. I asked like for the honest truth. They gave me the honest truth very quickly. And so I come home from that, and I said to my wife, I was like, oh, we'll have a look. But I was like, I don't want to move. I'm comfortable where we are. I love where we are. Got twin daughters. We're planning on school. And I was like, I don't want to move. I said, we're going to move for like a year or two max. So like, why do I want it from that point of view? So I decided then pretty much we would have a quick look, but probably wasn't going to be much in the offer. And I was surprised, probably because you were so relaxed about it. Quite good offers come in, and a couple of them I was like, oh, do we do it? Do we not? But at the time, fortunately, I'd had a good offer to drop down to semi-professional rugby in Wales, and then I was looking for jobs, and I thought I was really prepared because everybody in sport was telling me how well prepared I was, and it was how proactive I'd been, how good I was at setting up things, and then you get the first rejection, you get a second rejection, you get a third rejection. You're going, oh, wow, this is tough to deal with from that point of view. And then, fortunately, after a couple of months, then I managed to get a job at Swansea University, which was absolutely brilliant for me. Like, talk about landing yourself into a dream job for transition and giving yourself the space to learn and develop. I could not have had a better start on that working ladder. Sorry, that was a long one, that was, Mark.
No, it's interesting because I saw your LinkedIn post. Which LinkedIn post was it? There was a LinkedIn post that I saw this week, and I was just before we jumped on the call, and it talks about the interviews, the rejection of the interviews being what you fear the most. I think that was what I saw. And I found that interesting because in a way, the one thing that we say about sports people is that they deal with rejection relatively well because, being dropped out of the squad or losing a race or setback after setback, losing a game or race, whatever sport people are in. So I found it interesting that you found the rejection of, interviews being the one thing you struggled with. But I wonder if it's because you felt quite prepared. So actually, relative to maybe other rugby players, you felt like you've done everything possible to come out. So actually, maybe you set the wrong expectation for yourself, which is I'm in high demand because I've done what I need to do, and therefore I should expect a job offer. When you didn't get it, maybe it wasn't quite aligned to the expectations you'd created for yourself.
I think there's two levels on it. I think the frustration of when you get three feedbacks of you haven't got enough experience, I think that's really frustrating. So you're like, you knew that at the start of this
Yeah,
process. So why do you
yeah,
even bother to be any further from that point of view? So
yeah,
I think that frustration from that point of view. But also, you got to remember from a sporting point of view, it's success or failure, win or lose. So like you
mm,
come out of the interview, you don't get it, you've lost. And like it's as cutthroat as that. Whereas from a point of view of rationally looking at it, everyone's saying to you, look, you've done brilliantly. Like this is the first handful of jobs you've gone for, and you've got to the last interview, like the last two people for this job.
mm,
And like they're well established jobs. They're really good jobs. They're not just like Mickey Mouse jobs that you've like there's nobody going to apply for and they need people in there. There's jobs that there's a lot of people going for, but at the time you don't see that. You just see I failed and you go like, how
yeah,
much more could I have done? Because you, without realizing at that point, you think you're really well prepared. And then the next interview, all of a sudden you go, oh, I'm going to do this for this one as well because I didn't do it last time. You're going, oh, I'm a bit more prepared for this one. And then the
mm,
next one you're a bit more prepared for again. Or you go into the interview and all of a sudden you're not there like this. You can sit back and you can relax. You can engage that conversation. Um,
mm,
but you don't realize in that journey you're learning a lot. But it's also from a point of view, if you look from a rugby point of view, apart from a cup final, every other game you have, you get another chance. You get another chance. Whereas an
mm,
interview, you don't get that job from that. It's like, see ya. And you're like, okay, how do I deal with
yeah,
that? And then when you, especially when you're looking for something specific around the purpose that you feel like you want to work within, there's obviously a limited amount of jobs from that point of view. So obviously, that failure at that point is even harder to deal with as well.
And so is the ACL injury in some way just a small blessing because it kind of forced you to look into all these other avenues, the plumbing, the counselling, all these things you explored possibly because of the injury. Do you think your career and your post career would have been quite different if your ACL was in good shape and allowed you to continue competing?
The physios wish my ACL was in good shape. I'll be a bit to say for that. But no, I think it's surprising, isn't it? We talk about it a lot. The hardest learnings in your life are the things you take most from, and it's surprising
Mm,
how much they guide your decisions and change your outlook onto things. So, yeah, I don't think you could ever quantify how much difference that's made. But the
mm,
true things I do think it did. It made me be proactive, but it also made me enjoy my career a lot more. The things that
mm,
I would have stressed over a lot if I hadn't have had that. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't have had those injuries as well. So I think it's really important to understand what has guided you to those different decisions and what has opened your mind as well. And look, I would not say to anybody, I tell you what's a great idea. Have a really nasty ACL injury when you're 18 and get
yeah,
most of your meniscus cartilage taken out and then see what it's like for the rest of your career. But
yeah,
I definitely think I took a lot away from it and learned a lot from that point of view. And yeah, to be able to now work with professional rugby players when they're going through some of those journeys and be able to actually, like we talk about congruence and like walking in somebody's shoes with them, but when you have
mm,
actually been there, it's obviously a lot easier to walk in their shoes with them.
yeah,
But I think some people do struggle with if they have walked in their shoes with them before, not to let the player learn and decide on their own. They try and fix things. Where I'm not a fixer, I
yeah,
sit back and like let players like if somebody comes to you with a straight up answer that they want to, that's a straight up question they want to answer for, it's different. You do it from that point of view, but generally asking people's perspective on it and then saying, "Oh, like I don't know if you want me to share a story, but I have been in a similar situation to this," and all of a sudden everyone's like,
mm.
"Oh, okay, yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. It's very relevant to where I am right now as well."
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, how do you press that urgency onto other players? Because obviously you've had it, you've felt it, you've experienced it, you know what the outcome from it was. It opened your eyes up to more things. But how do you do that with people who maybe aren't quite there yet? They've not had that scan of the knee, or they've not had something that's forced them to do it. So how do you kind of press that urgency onto them, just to take that broader view of outside of sport, basically?
Yeah, I don't think it's one size that fits all. I think planting the seed and watch it blossom is different to everybody. Some
Mm.
people, it's crediting somebody else the work that they're doing and saying, like, oh, I've seen what so and so's doing. They seem to be so much more relaxed now around camp because they're doing that. Or
Yeah.
have you seen more, or to other people going, how long have you got left in that contract? How are you feeling about
Mm.
that? And then others going, oh, look, I know you said previously around your father being quite handy. Do you know we got trades courses coming up? Did you fancy any of them?
Mm.
So like, I think it can't be one size fits all. Like your
Yeah.
relationship with every player is different. Um, their road to where they are now is completely different. So are you going to rely on one of those emotional attachments that you've got from that point of view? Are you going to base it solely on rugby? Is it going to be the fact that they've just had children and you use it from that point of view? So I think every person is different, and I think the big thing for me is never forcing somebody to do it because, um, especially if it's a journey. Sometimes if it's a one-off day course, might apply a little bit more pressure to be like, you are turning up, and yeah. And then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, where do I turn up? But if it's something that's a long term journey and we are working on something longer term, forcing somebody into it is not the right thing because they go there with a closed mindset. They think they're doing it for you. They don't take out of it what they need to. They don't learn what they need to. And all of a sudden, 6 months down the line, they walk away with no qualifications, 6 months wasted and resentful to you as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. And did you? I mean, um, did you ever think you want a career in business? For example, I mean, sales is obviously a go-to place for a lot of rugby players, a lot of athletes, because there's a lot of parallels and synergies. But yeah, did you ever feel like, I know you've done it, you did some plumbing, you kind of mucked in with other things as well. But did you ever think, actually, what business, is something that I would want to get into?
No, the meet and greet business development that you go for a nice coffee with somebody and you catch up. I'm all over that. That is the way to get into it. If you can plan your life around catching up with people with something that you think is really going to add value, I'm more for people getting into that. But
Yeah.
I'll be completely honest with you, Mark. The thing I wanted to do is deal with people. I like fascinated around different people's stories, different people's journeys. The fact of
Mm.
creating space where we can actually learn, develop, and actually sometimes as well take stock.
Mm.
Because obviously, from a sports point of view, we're always pushing forward, always pushing forward. But then sometimes that push forward, all of a sudden that drop off's massive. And I always think
Yeah.
that there is time and place to sometimes just check in and go, right, this is where we're at right now. How are all you feeling about it? Do you need anything else before we push on again? So,
Mm.
um, so yeah, for me, it's funny. Like I've got the WRPA around. We do a lot around meeting different businesses and stuff, and it's
Mm.
fascinating from that point of view. I've got a lot of ex players and friends who've gone into business development and or opened their own
Mm.
businesses, done lots of different things. So yeah, I love that side of things and hearing people's journey. But for me, I wanted to be on the ground and dealing with people and seeing where that could take them as well. And yeah, I genuinely like it's a really interesting job because you see people go on and like from work you've done with them go on to be in relative terms whatever anybody deems a success is up to them but more successful than you and like I sit back and I'm like I'm so happy from that point of view and to see people flourish from that point of view and yeah I think we have to and I always say like we need to redefine success and redefine success what it means to you like a conversation today with somebody who's open out or gone a little bit deeper or connected to something might be as successful as somebody next week going to an interview and getting a
Mm.
job that's going to like lead to a really successful transition. I think defining success is a really really important job as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, it makes sense. And do you feel that, in terms of branding, that sometimes people need a bit of help to articulate what they've achieved? You mentioned it much earlier on when we started the call, around transferable skills, that you pick up on the rugby pitch and in the training grounds. Did you feel players need more help in actually really identifying all the brilliant things that they're doing on the pitch, but actually how to articulate that firstly on a CV, but also how to articulate it in the meeting or in an interview, with a potential employer?
Yeah, I think there's so much work that we can do around there, and people will learn in different ways from that point of view as well. Some people will naturally
Mm.
know it because they've got family members in certain fields and then they've been told it. So they might be further down the field of understanding those transferable skills. But yeah, we always have to show them, um, well, what have you done? What does that mean to you?
Mm.
What skills have come out of that? And then they're all of a sudden they're going bam, bam, bam. And when it comes from a point of self as well, that empowerment as well is huge as well, because you don't only you don't only see the transferable skills, you feel it, and it's actually within you, and we're talking about that, like confidence and reassurance in self. That's a massive place for them to learn from that point of view, and it's really interesting as well, isn't it? Because we're dealing with athletes who will go to a range of different jobs post. So, like saying some transferable skills that are going to really hit it off for one job are absolutely irrelevant to another job. So it's really important that we understand how wide ranging those are, and how to transfer. I think that's a massive thing for me is
Mm.
just putting people in scenarios of going, all right, okay, well, this is what you do on a rugby field. This is how you show leadership. What if you were in this environment? How would you show it? How would you show it there? And all of a sudden, someone's going, "Oh,
Mm.
um, what about this? I could do this. I could do that." And you're like, "Yeah, I would like that. If that was my manager, that's how I'd like to be treated, or that's how I'd like somebody to come across, or bring an idea to the table. I'd love that from that point of view." So yeah, designing those conversations as well, so that you um, make people feel like it's slightly uncomfortable and it's different, but
Mm.
also the fact of it's them and these ideas are coming from them. It's not you going right, have everything from me and just go and run with it and do the best you can. And like we always see it from the difference between like a mentor and a coach. And I think there's times where people need a mentor just to say like,
Mm.
from my point of view, you boys have done this journey. It goes really quickly, so like get on with stuff. There is times where you
Yeah.
have to be that person, but there's other times where you go like, boys, let's work on this together. But this is you, and this is your life as well.
Sounds like a 101 of parenting because that's the day to day. You put your shoes on, you put your pajamas on. But no, can you
How
do it?
often do
No.
we turn to the mentor where it's like, get them on now, and then
I know.
yeah, it's interesting. It is a life lesson for you that you didn't realize it would keep on educating you daily as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think being a parent's made me a better manager as well.
Oh, 100
Definitely more
percent.
tolerance, a lot more
Way
patience.
more tolerance. Way more tolerance.
Cool. So conscious of time, but the only question I have left for you is just on reflecting. I mean, it all sounds a bit dreamy, really, the way it's all happened for you. You got the unfortunate ACL injury, but it's kind of prompted you to do things, and you've kind of got to your exit from rugby and landed into a job you love.
There was eight other
Is there any
surgeries on the
reflection?
way there.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure
Eight
there's a lot
other
of bumps.
surgeries, a lot of Tuesday mornings hiding under the table, not to be told you're going to get dropped again. Times
Yeah,
in the career where you go, yeah, I don't think I'm going to get another contract. There's times in the career where you're like, where you're like, oh, the club's not playing me, so yeah, I'm going to have to go elsewhere. So yeah,
yeah,
definitely not a smooth road, and I would never think that from a reflection point of view, it would never be. I don't know anybody's career that's gone like that. But I'm very fortunate as
yeah,
well from a physical point of view to be in a good space post career and being able to enjoy it around physically, being in a good place mentally, as in having the not having that decision taken away from you, and being a
yeah.
little bit more prepared for it. And yeah, I think we got to go back to personality as well. I'm a positive person, and we can't go against what people are as personalities as well.
Mm,
I'm somebody who's upbeat. I love being around people, so that gives me energy day to day as well.
yeah. But is there any reflection of something you would do different, or do you feel like it's actually all panned out, maybe even a bit unintentionally? It's kind of worked out how you've wanted it to work out, or do you feel like at some point in your career you may have wished to have done something different?
Yeah, it's always interesting. I find it a fascinating one. I always say, whatever decision you made it with the best information that you had at that
Mm,
time. So I'm not somebody who regrets decisions. Like I love my career. I love where I am now. So
Mm.
obviously didn't do anything too bad from a point of view of decision making. So no, I
Yeah.
don't regret anything. And I remember a head coach said to me at a young age, I was about 17, and I'd just been dropped from Wales in I must have been 16. Must have just been dropped from Wales in the 16s and went to a college team. And a head coach, Gareth Nicholas, one of the best people I've had in my life. And I've been very fortunate to have a lot of good people in my life from that point of view. But said to me, if you give me everything this year, I promise you'll get into Wales under 18s a year early. And I was like, I've just been dropped by Wales in the 16s, which is actually my age group. Never mind making a team a year young the following year.
Yeah.
And I was like, a year. That's all he's asking for. Like everything for a year. I was the first in the gym, first into training, last off the field, last off the field. If he had said to me, you need to clean this whole gym and the changing room, I would have done it straight away for him. I was just like, I'm all in with this guy and just learned so much more, so much more. By the end of the year, I did get into Wales 18s, and I was like, wow, okay, so this is what it takes. This is my attitude, and it's gonna stay with me from that point of view. I'm gonna work as hard as I possibly can. And look, we'll all look at days where you go, yeah, probably could have done a little bit more on that day, but from a consistency point of view in my career, I don't think I could look at many parts of my career and gone,
Mm.
you should have worked more. You should have done a lot more there. So I think I knew the price of entry to professional sport was pretty high, and I was willing to pay that price as well. So I think no, I genuinely don't have any regrets from that point of view. I still smile about everything that went on in my career. And for me now, a job as the Welsh Rugby Players Association is to support players to hopefully when they get to the end of their careers, they got smiles on faces about their careers and
Mm.
they're positive about what's coming. Because everyone says, oh, if everyone gets worried that if you've really enjoyed your career, you're just going to be really worried about what's coming. But I think we can
Yeah.
reframe that as in, look, you loved your career because you were prepared for what life looked after, or you understood what life away from sport was, even if it wasn't a job offer
Mm.
waiting for you. So you can enjoy it a little bit more when you're in it, but you can also go, look, I know there's success outside of rugby, and I've redefined my success, and I understand what success looks like now away from the game. And I feel that that is our big role. It's not just saying to somebody, look, here's your job application, walk through it in, you've got a job as soon as you come out. It's actually
Mm.
finding that success, not us designing that success for them and defining it for them designing
Yeah.
that and defining that success and working towards that because we can't expect to be like we talk about prep all the time within sport, but if we haven't prepped for that, like how do we expect that to be a success straight away? So
Mm.
for me, it's working
Yeah.
with people and it's having that empathy, not sympathy for that situation. Like if we're going,
Sure.
oh no, the end's coming. Well, what's a player going to feel like? But if we're going, wow, that's exciting. Like, well, how do you think we can get? How
Yeah.
would you like us to prepare for that? Bam, 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 bam. Like, oh, these are the things I struggle with from a point of view of transition. How do you feel about those? Like some of the things I fear and different for me. Other people have been like, nah, it doesn't bother me. That's no issue to me. And we get worried around now as well. Speaking about like purpose, like purpose could be financial. So somebody could say to me, like, what is the best paying job from a starting point of view? I say, okay, these, bam, 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 this career, this career, this career. Okay, what do I need to do to that? Okay, but if money's your driver, let's work with that. Don't be embarrassed about it. Like, or to other people, and the flexibility for me, Lloyd's really important. That I can drop my kids off to school in the mornings, but I can work later. Okay, well, let's have a look at careers where we can get away with that for. But
Mm.
actually defining what's really important for players, it, like is a really nice starting point, and going to players as well. Everything's you go to a player and I say, oh, what do you want to do post? And they're like, I haven't got a clue. And then they're like, oh, I don't want to speak about it because I haven't got a clue. Well, that's fine. And then all of a
Mm.
sudden, now we can put some very open questions to start slowly navigating for you. Okay, and then all of a sudden, by the
Mm.
end of our conversation, you're going, well, what would you like to do? Do you think you'd like to pick up some education now, first of all, or would you like to go and do some work experience? What would be the best in for you? And all of a sudden, you've got somebody then doing 4 or 5 weeks work experience and going, I don't like it, and that's fine. Or I really like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to pick up some education in this and knows no's around career navigation are as important as yeses as well, because
Yeah,
they do
100%.
define it for you. Like, I always look back on 3-4 years of plumbing and go, I definitely knew it wasn't a trade for me. There was a lot of other lessons I learned from putting my foot
Yeah.
through a ceiling, which will be the biggest amount of resilience you'd ever learn. But there's loads of things. But I realized I ain't going back to trades. I'm terrible with tools in my hands. So I need to find something where that isn't one of my skills
Yeah.
or I need. And like that, yeah, ego as a battering at that point by realizing that you're not very good at it. But it doesn't matter, because actually by the end of my career, I'm not wasting 2-3 years trying to navigate them through about 5-6 different career avenues to try and find out where I want to go as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's so interesting the way you describe it. With prep, that sporting analogy, that treat that exit as you prep, in sport, and it's so true that the more time you can allow yourself to get to those no's, because each no is just a confirmation of what's not right for you. It's super interesting, and I guess the more time people give themselves to achieve that, the better. And you achieved it quite early, which is great.
Also, the
So,
price you're
so yeah,
willing to pay as well. Like, a lot of people tell me, "Oh, I want to do work. Like, I want to be prepared for life away." And then I say, oh, like, what are you willing to sacrifice? And then we go, obviously, you've got
mm,
players with young families. And I'm saying, like, but on your day off once a week, on your Wednesday, are you willing to give that day to prep yourself for life after? And um,
yeah,
if you say no, then say, okay, well, we need to rein in our like definition around what success might look like, because that actually one day a week in certain career fields could potentially get you to this point. And then all of a sudden someone's
mm,
going, and I'm like, look, this isn't me saying you have to do it. This is me saying, like, for you as a family, is it more important to try and get to that point, or is it more important for you to have a Wednesday at home? And like, it's not my answer. Like, what I would do
yeah,
doesn't suit what you would do. But we also have to ask these questions. And I say to the players a lot when they sign up to do different things, saying like, does your partner know about this? Do you understand the commitment? Do you understand what it's going to look like when you got 4 weeks off in the summer? Do you actually understand that this course is still running through that? So 4 of those weeks that you're in on one of those days as well, or
yeah,
like, so like just understanding what the impact is. And I think that's really, really important, because your family and your loved ones are always on the journey with you, but being open and
yeah,
honest with them what the impact will be of starting up new career development things as well is really important, so they understand that as well.
yeah. No, makes tons of sense. Um, well, thank you very much, Lloyd. That was a great session, and I couldn't think of a safer pair of hands for athletes who are kind of making that transition away from professional rugby into whatever comes next for them. And you've obviously got a um, very open and kind of supportive, I guess, approach to getting people to find out what their why is after leaving sport. And like you say, there's no one size that fits all. And nurturing somebody to find out for themselves what that looks like, with the right prep time and the right lead time to get to those outcomes. Yeah, super impressive to hear all of that. So we really appreciate your time. Hopefully our listeners will find it useful. Um, and yeah, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate the invite on, Mark, and I really appreciate you sharing these stories from athletes as well, because I think a lot of the time it's like doors closed, don't want to hear about you anymore from that point of view. So I think like brilliant, and like we said earlier, very fortunate from a Welsh Rugby Players Association that we're able to work with these young athletes from a young age, and but also like the reminder we always go back to: we're dealing with people. We're not dealing with athletes. We're
Yeah.
dealing with unbelievable people who have got an unbelievable skill set that's allowed them to be athletes. I think that's a really important point. Always going back to that, and yeah, people
Mm,
first. People first.
super. Thanks a lot, Lloyd.
Thank you, Mark.